And now we will get started. I'll hand over to Tim Taylor from gtechna. Tim, all yours.
Thank you, Kenny. My name is Tim Taylor, Director of Marketing at gtechna and the moderator for today's session. During the webinar, you'll be on mute, but we encourage you to send us questions through your questions pane. Please indicate what slide you had a question about and to whom it is directed. All questions will be queued up in a Q&A period at the end, and we have our team on hand, including Jason Casimir, our Senior Sales Engineer. Questions that we can't get to will be followed up by email. And now a little bit about our panelists. Mike Bore is an electronics and instrumentation technology expert with more than 30 years of experience working in tech. Mike brings with him practical experience in a variety of tech business ventures across a number of verticals spanning a global market. Mike's been with gtechna for 15 years as VP of Sales and Marketing. Ben Peace is a parking enforcement expert with 8 years of experience in enhancing parking operations. His leadership roles at the City of Calgary and the University of British Columbia, Okanagan, have provided him with extensive knowledge in managing large-scale parking operations. Since joining Sensen in 2021, he has successfully paired operational expertise with AI-driven technologies, giving him a well-rounded ability to tackle parking management challenges through innovative technology-based solutions. Ian Michel has been with the City of Kitchener for over 25 years, beginning as a trail bike officer. His experience grew as he embraced various roles, such as parking officer and noise officer, and today he holds the title of Manager of Bylaw Services. Innovative at heart, Ian enthusiastically explores new technologies to streamline operations and strengthen partnerships with local businesses, paving the way for collaborative solutions like AI-LPR, which recently won an award for innovative solutions for school safety zones. And now let's get started. Over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Tim. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about Kitchener. It was originally called Little Berlin, and it was renamed Kitchener in 1916. Right now we host the largest Bavarian festival in North America. Many of you may have heard of it, called Oktoberfest. We have visitors from all over the world for that. We are the largest city in the Waterloo region with a 6.15% population growth in 2022 to 2023, which is over double the national average. The region of Waterloo is the fastest growing region in all of Canada, and Kitchener being the biggest city in that region. We are home to Google Canadian headquarters, Commutech, and countless startups. We're fueled by talent from the nearby University of Waterloo. We're kind of known as the tech hub of Canada. We lead Canada in linguistic diversity and saw a 65% rise in permanent residents between 2016 and 2021. So just a little bit about Kitchener. Next slide. So how did we move from manual to AI-driven enforcement? We recognized there were some challenges with traditional LPR. Some of them were we required manual review and enforcement steps. In school zones, officers had to stop and park, which added congestion. Drivers left when they saw enforcement to avoid tickets. So when an officer would stop to issue one ticket, other drivers would see that and drive away. And a big concern was officer safety, with drivers sometimes being abused and even assaulted in these zones. So the result was uneven enforcement and unfair outcomes. Next slide. So what does parking enforcement look like in Kitchener today? So we went with AI-driven LPR, so curb digitization. We created curb rules for automated enforcement in specific zones, such as fire hydrants, no standing, no stopping zones, and loading areas. So as soon as the officer enters that zone, the vehicle recognizes that and begins to issue tickets based on that zone. We were AI-powered LPR for school zones. So we were the first automated AI system in Ontario. We built it for high safety environments. So again, when the officer enters that zone in front of a school, the LPR vehicle recognizes that and automatically starts the enforcement on its own. And a big concern was locking down data. So legal, privacy, retention, security is all baked into the system. So in these zones, the school zones, we issue tickets by mail for speed, coverage, and safety, which reduces traffic blockages and eliminating officer exposure in some zones. And for other violations that are not we need enforcement that quickly, we can still use the handheld enforcement for precision, flexibility, and cost control, minimizing unnecessary DMV lookups, because every time we look up a plate to mail a ticket, it's an extra $10 on that ticket. Next slide, please. So what does parking enforcement look like in Kitchener today? So our new AI-driven system, as I alluded to earlier, we've upgraded to an AI-powered LPR system with AI-powered cameras. It's fully AI-powered detection, record, and triggers violations automatically. So again, officers enter a certain zone, it recognizes that zone and starts enforcement depending on what the rules are in that zone. So it's real-time plate scanning and curb rule detection. So it's scalable, hands-off enforcement from the perspective of the officer. So the impact of that was higher accuracy and fewer ticketing errors. Each ticket that's issued through the system, the officers can review before they actually issue that ticket. So they can look at the plate number, they can look at all the details before making that ticket final, so there's fewer ticketing errors. It creates a safer condition for officers, so there's less field exposure again in the high contention areas, especially school zones. It's safer, much safer for the officer, and we get faster coverage again, especially in high risk school zones. Next slide, please. So what you should know before launching AI LPR triggered enforcement. The biggest thing I think you need is stakeholders buy-in. It starts with the leadership team, and then most importantly, I think, is staff, and then IT and communications as well. So when we went with the system, we really had to sell it both to our leadership team and our staff to ensure that it would be used and be effective like we needed it to be. So we needed their buy-in in order to launch it and be successful with it, which we were. You have to also plan for a learning curve. Like pilots and phased out rollout is what we did. We tested the system before we completely rolled it out. We worked out all the bugs. We customized it to what we needed depending on rules and what have you. And then the last thing is, the most important for us was prioritizing officer safety, reducing the manual tasks and risky interactions with parents in the school zones. Next slide. So our first focus with the AI LPR system was for use in the school zone areas. That was the highest contention area for us. So why AI? The LPR system changed everything for us. So again, it was an automated enforcement, which meant no enforcement parked vehicles, no tipping off drivers. Very simple. The officer enters that area. The system recognizes that area as a school zone, and all they have to do is drive by, and it records and tickets every vehicle that it recognizes is in that zone. So what that did is give consistent, fair enforcement, and every violation was detected equally. So there was no excuses of, well, how come you're ticketing him, but you didn't ticket me, that thing, or how come you're ticketing me and not him? So we provide clear evidence of photos, timestamps. They're all available to the public. So whenever one of these tickets was issued, they would get a copy of the ticket in the mail, along with the photos, which are timestamped. So there's really no contesting the ticket. And it gave us a 100% acceptable rate in school zones, which meant fewer people contesting tickets because the proof was simply indisputable. And again, officer reviews that information before we process that ticket. So we make sure that it's 100% indisputable before mailing it out. And the end of that was we got positive feedback from the residents, teachers, and the community as a whole, which welcomed safer, fairer enforcement, which equaled fair and safer enforcement. Next slide, please. So the expanded curbside enforcement, fire hydrants, no standing, no stopping zones. So we've expanded the system now to detect fire hydrants, measures 3 meters of each side of that. no stopping zone, like regular no stopping zones, no parking zones. And actually also in our parking lots, pay by plate, the vehicle simply drives through and scans all the plates. And if someone hasn't paid for parking, it will recognize that and alert the officer. So it gave us optimized efficiency, active enforcement, where officers are covering school zones and school safety initiatives. AI-LPR is enforcing other business rules as well. So even while they're on their way to a school zone, it's recognizing violations. The system is on its own. Next slide, please. So the result, safer streets, higher efficiency, and stronger trust. So when we first rolled out the system for school zones, our number one priority was we were looking to increase compliance. So that's what happened. That's the favorable thing. But what we received an offset of that was 100% increase in ticketing issuance. We doubled the amount of tickets we were issuing in these zones. Now it did eventually stabilize down to 30% because we were seeing more increased compliance, which was really what our goal was. Because of that, there were fewer errors, fewer complaints, photo records enabled reviews, which meant officer safety, reduced in-person confrontations, which was a big concern for us because some officers wouldn't even enter these zones because they didn't want to deal with the confrontations or the abuse. And it gave us consistent enforcement, reduced claims of unfair ticketing, which again gave us good public perception, strong support for fairness and safety. And also the offset of all of this was it gave an internal pride and morale to the staff. They felt empowered. They were proud to work in a smart city using smart technology and cutting edge technology. Next slide, please. So the takeaways are proven, scalable, transferable solutions. So this is different from a traditional from a traditional LPR. This AI LPR was completely new. We were the first again in Ontario to use it. But with the work that we've done with the company, we've created an out-of-the-box model now that's scalable and easily adaptable by other municipalities. Most municipalities have the same parking rules. So we've ironed out, if you will, everything with the system to be adaptable. And it's proof that tech plus forward-thinking leadership can modernize enforcement while improving efficiency and trust. We phased out the rollout to manage risks and build confidence, and we've resolved initial system challenges. We've streamlined operation and compliance. So again, it gives other municipalities an advantage. They have an out-of-the-box solution now. Next slide. So future considerations, AI co-pilot features, how the system can better support officers. So the system is capable, and we do use it to some extent, of having the ability to be spoken to and then responding. So if you, for example, want to turn off the left camera for scanning, the officer can give that command, and it will turn off the left camera and say the left camera has been disabled, that type of thing. So it gives good feedback, good notifications and alerts. So whenever there's again, an officer is alerted to a ticket or a violation, the system alerts the officer. It could be voice commands or it could be just simple alerts. Automated occupancy counts for on-street statistics. So our transportation planning right now hires physical people to go to streets and count vehicles. We recognize the system has the ability to do that, so we're looking at using that in the future as well. So for snow ban enforcement, most municipalities have a snow ban enforcement when there's an accumulation of snow. And again, we have the ability to scan vehicles and issue tickets based on that parking rule as well. So we're looking at using that for the future. And expanding enforcement to other infraction types, like I said earlier, fire hydrants, loading zones, accessibility spaces. And one final thing is illegal signage. We have two officers, two signed by law officers that currently go around the city looking for illegally placed signs, typically on boulevards. So this system can recognize those signage and keep a count and keep a map, and we can share that with them so they know they can go to a high area where these infractions are, rather than wasting time driving around the entire city. Camera upgrades, there is the ability to have dual function and additional cameras for context. Right now, I think there's about 4 or 5 cameras, and there's the ability, I think, to go all the way up to 8 cameras on a vehicle, which gives us better background images and context. And again, we're always forward thinking, looking for new technology or expanding current technology. Next slide.
Great, thanks, Ian. So I'll jump in now just to dig into the technology behind the program and just cover off on some of the items that Ian discussed. So there's really 2 main requirements throughout our discussions with Kitchener and Ian. One was automation and efficient enforcement. The second one was really focusing on the evidence images and how many images and what kind of context can we provide to Ian to better support those tickets if they are contested. So how was this accomplished? Next slide, please. The first thing that we need to look at here is the automation and the precision. So how does it work? As Ian mentioned, the vehicle can drive through a parking zone or parking zones, and it automatically knows where it is, what rules to apply. This is done by a few different things. One is by geolocating the enforcement rules. So you'll see the image on the left, there's a number of polygons on that block face. Each one is corresponding to a certain set of rules that are at the street level. You can see with school buses, there's a sign there with a parking rule on it, and that's corresponding to the polygon on the left where the vehicle was detected. That's where the green pin is. So just by knowing its location, using a high performance GPS, which can get down to the centimeter level accuracy, we know where the vehicle was detected and then the corresponding rule to enforce. And this can happen as the vehicle travels at regular driving speeds. Next slide. You can start to see the benefits of this when you zoom out. So the image on the left is the downtown core of Kitchener. There'd be a high number of parking zones on each block face. You could have at least 2 to 3, from paid parking to overtime parking to loading zones, et cetera, et cetera. And then as you zoom out to the image on the right, you start to see these are the school zones that Ian's team enforces. So we can digitize the entire network. So the officer, one, doesn't have to learn about all the rules and worry about switching the rule on and off like you would do with the traditional LPR system. They can just focus on the driving safely, focus on coverage, being efficient, and let the system do all of the hard work. Next slide. Again, touching base on the efficiency and the accuracy. So traditional LPR will be license plate triggered. So it'll detect the license plate and it'll capture an image. Our system here is actually detecting the vehicle as its trigger. So you'll see the green box around the blue truck. That's identifying the vehicle itself. Secondary to that, we're now going to look for the license plate or other features that we're interested in. What this helps us accomplish is, one, true accuracy. So license plates aren't always visible. Sometimes they're hidden, as we'll see in a second here. But we want a true representation of what's on the street. One, to get accurate occupancy counts, but 2, we just want to make sure we're not missing any vehicles. Next slide. And here's a great example of that in action. It does happen from time to time where someone may want to cover their license plate. Maybe it's deliberate, maybe it's by accident, but the vehicle itself is detected here. And we can notify the person driving the vehicle that, hey, we detected a vehicle with no license plate. This may be something that you want to investigate further. Next slide. Now we're going to take a look into the context. So that was the second part of the second requirement that Ian and Kitchener really needed, is they needed to show where the vehicle was located to prove that it either hadn't moved or that's exactly where it was at the point of time that it was detected. So again, traditional LPR is focusing on capturing single point images. Our system works a little bit differently, where it's actually recording in video. So the cameras, there's a live stream, and we're essentially looking to detect and pull out the images that we want to. So on the left-hand side there, you'll see that we detected the rear of the vehicle. We detected the vehicle first, and then we detected the license plate secondary. As we drive by the vehicle, now we're pulling out context images that are associated to that same vehicle. It's not being done by a point and click capture. It's actually recording as we go by, and then we're telling it to pull us, say, 2 images out. But we could go 3 images, 4 images, 5 images, and get a start of the car to the end of the car. That is configurable. You can also look at a rear-facing camera as well. So we can get rear of the car, side profile, and front of the car, which can then be used to look at the front license plate. It could be used for determining if there's a hang tag or maybe someone sitting in the vehicle, or just to give you a little bit more background context as we drive by the vehicle. Next slide. So this is how you would put those context images into practice. Here's an example of what the officer in the car might see. We've detected a vehicle. Potentially it could be an overtime infraction. They can then look in real time at all of the context images. They can toggle between the number of images that we've captured. Like I said, it may be 2, 3, up to 5 is common. They can really determine, has that vehicle moved? Is it in the same location it was first seen versus when it was second seen? Next slide. Jumping into some of those future considerations. So Ian did make mention of the AI Copilot functionalities. The system is designed really to support the officer as a tool, to let them focus on the driving and being efficient, and the system will feed them with information or allow it to communicate with them. So typical, you may have to engage a left camera or a right camera. You can still do that with the system, but you can also use voice control. So I can engage the voice or the microphone, and I can tell it start scanning right, start scanning left, start scanning both sides, or to turn the cameras off. I can also have it force capture. So let's say there's a scenario, an accident, or some sort of scene that I want to capture at that point in time. I can ask the system to force capture. It'll essentially take pictures from all the cameras on the system to really paint a picture. I can also transcribe and give it a voice memo of the scene that's happening at that point in time, which is recorded for investigation later on. Next slide. I can also use the system to identify where I've been. So it will be able to map all of my travels during any time period or for an entire day. This is useful to know where I've driven if I want to go back and pick up an overtime scan. I can identify the streets that I went to, and maybe I'll circle back to those areas. It can also give you some feedback on efficiency. Did I drive the most efficient route that day? Next slide. I can also use the system, and this can be done remotely. Ian at any time could go have a live view of the system through the cameras. So what is it currently looking at? Where is it? This can be done for safety reasons, or maybe an incident was reported while they're out on the street. I can also send real-time GPS coordinates of the system so we can track for safety reasons where all the vehicles may be at any point in time. Next one. And lastly, we've made mention briefly to sign detection. So detecting signs is very beneficial for evidence, but also just for other use cases, such as passing this information along to transportation, to the sign shop to identify signage issues. But it really highlights the fact that almost anything can be detected. As long as it's a consistent image and we know what we're looking for, we can use and leverage the AI to detect assets or features on the street. Next slide. Thank you.
Guess my turn now, then. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is the sequence of events for Ticket-by-Mail. And I would like to thank Ian. He sent me a whole bunch of screen captures to show me, to show us here today an example of the sequence of how Kitchener gives a ticket by mail. So thanks for sending that over, Ian. So the first step will be I'll show some different screenshots, privacy, face blurring, which is something the AI does automatically, infraction captured, overwhelming proof to be able to give the citation, the infraction hit detail, and of course the handheld sequence for the ticket by mail. So get next screen, please. So the first screen here, what we're showing is on the right, you'll notice there's a person on a scooter or whatever that they're riding there, it's completely blurred out. So this is something that we do, that the AI does for privacy automatically. So you don't have to worry about any person being seen on evidence. And of course, you'll notice that there's a school in the background there. That's a school zone. And you'll notice in some of the next screenshots, wherever you see a yellow square over the license plate, that's something that I purposely put in there in the PowerPoint so that we don't show people's license plate. So that's done manually in the PowerPoint, so you don't see the actual license plate. Next slide. So in this example, the AI vehicle drove by on that street in front of the school, captured 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 infractions. Okay, and as you can notice here, it's showing the different. It's showing. I really like this. The vehicle not only recognizes the license plate, but also recognizes the make and model of the vehicle, which is very positive thing to have. Next slide. So this is the evidence is this is part of what Ben was showing earlier. Again, we can the AI LPR can provide 2, 3, 4, 5 contextual pictures so that the evidence is undisputable. And this, of course, is a nice picture. It shows the sign beside it, no stopping, and so kind of undisputable. Next slide. So this is, let's look into a specific vehicle that's going to get a ticket, which is the picture we just showed you beforehand. So this is the detail of that infraction. So you can see the date and time, where it was captured, the longitude and latitude, and so from here, what the officer will do is drive down the end of that street. Next slide. And they will pick up their handheld. In Kitchener, they use our handheld to be able to issue tickets on the windshield, but they use the same handheld also to be able to send a ticket by mail. So in this example, if we start from the left to right, so on the left side, what you'll notice is a screenshot of the Android handheld that that Kitchener uses. So in this case, what they did is they selected that infraction, which is on the top, and then it's given the alert. So it's asking the enforcement officer, do you want a ticket or ignore it? In this case, they said ticket. And then in the middle screen, you'll see that all the evidence that was captured by the AI LPR is sent to our command center, so it's available for the handheld. So all that information is automatically provided, part of the ticket record. And then the last screenshot on the right, the officer, all they have to do is select the service type, which is right on the bottom there. They can select by mail. And when they do that, that automatically goes to the command center so that it can be mailed later on during the day. Next screen. So that's the way Kitchener does it. But for future considerations, Kitchener could also do the review process on their command center. So this is an example of one of our other customers that actually do the reviewing from the office on the command center. So that's something that for future considerations for Kitchener. And that's about it for the presentation of how they do ticket by mail. Next slide. Q&A time. Come and join me, guys.
We're here to back you up. So good stuff, guys. That was very informative, honestly. I think there's quite a few questions that came out of this and some interesting ones. We got the panelists here, so let's go ahead and start asking some questions that came in. One of them that came in, and this comes in all the time, whether it's for traditional LPR, AI LPR, and obviously someone's really wondering this. What is the accuracy percentage on LPR cameras? Does it capture all license plate numbers correctly? Did you find any discrepancies? So I guess we'll ask it to Ian as the user who had a traditional LPR, now he has AI LPR. What do you find in terms of the scanning, the accuracy, and stuff of that nature?
Well, in the sense of accuracy, there's two parts. It's a twofold. So the accuracy of the system capturing the plate number and then the accuracy of the actual ticket being produced. The actual ticket being produced is 100% accuracy because the officer reviews photographs of the plate and compares it to what is being given to them by the system itself. The system itself is about 95% accurate in capturing. Sometimes it mistakes a B for an 8 or something like that, depending on the weather and what have you. But again, the accuracy of the system itself is just one point. That the officer reviews photos before actually completing the ticket. So in that sense, it's about 100% accuracy.
Thank you, Ian. And Ben, I would have asked you, but I figured I might as well ask the customer. People may not like the answer from the supplier, and Ian is using the system. Now let's see. This is another interesting
Well,
one.
I would one second, Jason. I would ask Ben maybe to explain, because I was quite impressed by some of the things that they do because they're in video mode. If there's something kind of hiding the plate, because it's in video mode, it can capture all the digits that typically a traditional LPR can't capture. Maybe can you talk about that, Ben, and maybe some other little tidbits that really differentiate AI LPR?
Yeah, and Ian was right about the accuracy. There's different ways to measure accuracy. Another level is, I mentioned it before, detecting the object or the vehicle first. So if a license plate is not present or if it's covered, it won't be detected at all. So that's one major benefit, is you still have record of the vehicle, and then you can further investigate it. The other thing that you might have noticed is a lot of these images in the daytime are in color. So what color allows you to do is, especially north of the border, when you have salt, sand on the road, that actually will impact infrared completely. So plates become non-reflective, which can also impact accuracy. But having color, it tends to perform much better in those weather conditions. And as Mike was alluding to, using video streaming. So essentially what you're able to do is capture that license plate around 25 frames per second. So you're constantly trying to read that plate as you drive by it. And you may have vision of the plate for 3 or 4 seconds as you drive by. So you can get near 100 different attempts to read that license plate at different angles. And that can also help increase the accuracy, especially if there are objects, again, at the rear of the vehicle, like bike racks, that are potentially covering the license plate. You're able to see it at multiple angles as you drive by.
Thank you for that comprehensive answer. And I guess I agree with you, Mike. It was good to get that well-rounded feedback after all. Related to that, guys, while we're pushing you to the extremes here, people are wondering about other edge cases. You mentioned a car with no plate. What about like when there's a dead zone or no cell service? What's the behavior in those cases? How do we treat that?
Yeah,
I guess that could be for Ben first, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I can take that. So everything happens on the edge, meaning the vehicle, all the AI, all the matching, all the logic happens in the car. So it doesn't actually need a cellular reception. For the GPS, and if that's what the question was geared to, so the GPS is an actual proper GPS using satellites. It's not using the cellular for its location. And then we also subscribe in some cases to a service called RTK, which really uses other features and other services at the local level to really get us down to that centimeter level of accuracy. So it is true centimeter level accuracy, which helps with the placement. For assigning rules such as parking session lists or hot listing that updates from the cloud, if there's no cellular reception, of course, we can't pull that information down to the edge, but it'll still be able to enforce what it has pulled at that point in time. And then there's a last check, speaking for Ian here, there's a last check that Ian's team would do before actually issuing the final ticket to make sure that they have all that necessary data. And I think that highlights the benefit of Ticket-by-Mail, where you're not relying on all the information that you have at that point in time. You can actually pull that information later that day or the next day before issuing.
Thank you. And Ian, if you have anything to add to that, go ahead. If not,
Yeah, from a user's perspective, we haven't experienced any dead zones or any loss of signals from the GPS. There are some for cellular, but again, it hasn't impacted us for enforcement. We're still able to capture the infractions. So from a user's perspective, there's been no issue with that.
And there's a lot of questions coming in, so I'm trying to ask them in an intelligent order here while I read and listen at the same time. Here's another one related to an edge case. So if somebody's in the vehicle when you're, putting them as a violator, what's the rules? And I guess, Ian, if it's a no stopping zone, I guess it doesn't matter if they're in the car or not. So I guess I want to put that in context. But in general, if someone's in the vehicle and the car is running, the combination of Ian and Ben, other than that specific case I gave, they're wondering what does it do? Because it does the face blurring. What does it do if someone's in the actual vehicle in certain cases? So I'll start with you.
Okay, I can start from it depending on, like you said, Jason. If it's a no stopping zone, it doesn't matter if the vehicle is occupied or not. No parking zones, again, because it's capturing video and still pictures from that video. The officer is able to review, so they can pull over in a safe zone, review the ticket, and other than no stopping zones or school zones, the officer actually still issues the ticket to the vehicle or to the driver. So they get out, and if there's a conversation to be had, then they'll have that conversation. So it's not simply that for the violations where it doesn't matter if the vehicle occupied or not, it's mailed anyway, but we still have that other function of serving to the person or to the vehicle. So we can still have those conversations.
Very good answer. Thank you, Ian. And I don't think people are expecting great answers to some of those. I think they're trying to get us, but ultimately, I think the questions come because they want to know, will it cover all the cases they're thinking? And this next one, I've dealt with it a few times, and I think they want to know specifically how Kitchener deals with this in particular. So there's two questions that are related to this, and I'll ask only one. So how do you recognize accessible parking passes? Do you deal with that in Kitchener? I know there are cities where it's not like an assigned spot. So that question came up in the past for me, and it's coming up again now with two different questions. Do you have to deal with accessible parking passes, and what is your use case for that if you encounter it?
So those passes, I think, are generally only in Toronto, where somebody with an accessible pass can park in certain zones. And I think no parking zones, definitely. I'm not sure about no stopping zones, but in Kitchener we don't have that challenge. Even if you have an accessible pass, you still can't park in any zone. The only permission you have is to park in accessible spaces. However, the system can recognize that, and depending on how the cameras are set up, it can have a zoom in picture of the front of the vehicle, like on the dashboard or the rear view mirror. So it really all depends on what you need it to use. So if you have a camera facing that way, and the officer drive by, it recognizes the vehicle's in a zone, you can have it set, and I think Ben can speak more to this. You can have it set so it's taking pictures of that dash, so you can recognize whether there's a permit there or not.
Yeah, Ian's bang on. But one thing to always keep in mind, and from experience, is accessibility, hang tags. The object itself is identifiable, but the text can be hard to read, especially by any level of AI and any camera. So that's always something to keep in mind. But it'll give you a visible image of if there's something present, and can inform you that there's something present. And Ian's bang on as well. Having multiple cameras gives you the option to get multiple zooms or focuses, and using off-the-shelf cameras. So we don't make and design our own cameras. We're using proven technology in the marketplace who have solved a lot of these problems for us. We're just utilizing that piece of hardware to then extract data from using our AI technology. So whatever the use case that's out there, or the edge case, there's typically some sort of hardware that solved the issue. We're just leveraging it with our software.
Some comprehensive answers. I hope everybody's following. It's getting a little bit technical here, but I hope everybody expected that, considering the topic of AI LPR. Here's another one. In terms of the tweaking of context images and stuff of that nature, the question is, can you pull photo evidence from further away to capture signage in relation to the vehicle. And I kind of feel we showed a screenshot, but maybe Ben, you can give a bit more feedback on that if you want.
Yeah, it is configurable. So for detecting the object, we have configurations that can basically tell us or tell the system detect it closer, further away. There's always a trade-off though at the same time. But context images from the side and the rear, we can also apply that to the front. Detect the image further in the foreground and then continuously pull images from the video frame as we get closer to the vehicle, and then we extract the license plate. So it's fully customizable. Really, it's usually a discussion with the end customer of what they want, how many images they want, and what are they trying to really paint as their evidence package.
Adding to that, in terms of all these context images and stuff, like some people are wondering about numbers of cameras, and as you go to one extreme or the other, what are the recommendations for that, and why would you go with more versus less?
It would be down to what the requirement would be. We find now Ian's system has 6 cameras, so 3 on each side. What that gives you the ability to do is play around with those side contexts or throw in a rear context image as well. So it gives you that flexibility. One limitation, I think, is trying to accomplish everything from a single camera. Something is going to give. You're going to be able to get a great image here, but you're going to sacrifice something else. So the camera functions flawlessly based on it's software with 6 to 8 cameras, but we find that 6 cameras is the sweet spot.
A question for Ian. I don't know if Kitchener specifically deals with out of province stuff. So if you do encounter a violator that's potentially a US plate, is there a special process? I mean, I know from the gtechna side, we have a process where we could get an out of state or out of province lookup, but I'll let Ian address it specifically for Kitchener.
Yeah, out of province or out of country plates are a challenge because we can't run the DMV lookup. We don't have the ability to. So what we do in those instances, if we see a constant violator, then we simply set up the vehicle to be towed. And that's how we get around that. So if someone is out of province and they're consistently stopping in a school zone, or they're consistently parking in a no parking zone or over the time rule limit, unfortunately, at the end of the day, we can't go after them for the ticket amount, but we will issue a ticket and tow the vehicle on, say, like more than 3 offenses. That's how we deal with it in Kitchener.
Thank you, Ian. And here's another one. While we're pushing the limits, we had a car with no plates. People in Ontario know there were these famous blue plates that were released, and they want to know, how does this system deal with those plates?
I can speak to that as well. There's no issue at all. Again, because Ben alluded to earlier, it takes color photos, so there's no issue detecting those plates at all.
Well, question for you, for Ian. People are, I guess, at the admin level wondering certain things in terms of like, what was the process like to identify, upload all the different parking zones in the command center? And obviously you were a user before, so maybe you could give an answer to that since it was asked.
It was being the first in Ontario to do it, it was a little challenging at first because we had to educate on the certain rules and what they meant. Like, for example, we have a repark bylaw in downtown where you can't park and then repark within 5 hours. So that's a certain rule only specific to Kitchener. But really is the support of the system itself was super important for us, and the support was there anytime there was an issue and anytime we needed something, and it worked both ways. We could send a request for something, 5 minutes later we get a response, please try this, and then our officers would try it immediately and then send a response. So it's a two-way street, but we've ironed out all of those issues now, and really it's an advantage to other municipalities because all that has been worked through already, and it's an out-of-the-box solution now.
And we definitely appreciate that, Ian. And being an early adopter is never easy. You were up for the challenge, as you mentioned, with Kitchener being a tech hub. And it took an effort, and right now we're happy because it's going to make it easier for everyone else, as you just mentioned. Another kind of a big question, I think this is, I waited to ask it. I wanted to get through all the technical stuff, but this is something I get all the time. Did the implementation of AI/LPR affect staffing levels or operational needs, requirements? And when you read between the lines, is it like, does AI remove jobs kind of thing?
Actually, no. When we adopted this system, we adopted it for efficiency, and actually, part of the selling point to our senior management was we could eliminate the need for an extra staff person to try and cover all these zones and all these rules. So not only did it increase revenue and compliance, it actually reduced the cost in the sense of staffing. And the system itself, I mean, the AI, it's always a concern. Is it going to take over? It's kind of like the computer age or the phone age where, you know, it was going to take over all our jobs, but I think that's not something to worry about. It may phase out certain jobs, but it also creates new jobs as well. So the whole concern with AI taking over, I think, is just kind of very similar to that.
Like when the computer came about and everyone said it was going to take all our jobs, now it's the biggest tool and it created a lot of jobs. Another one, while you're answering these things, and they're enjoying really asking deep questions here. So what was the most difficult challenge you faced while implementing this tech, and how did you manage that?
The biggest was actually getting approval to even have it. We really had to sell it. And I put a lot of trust into Group Techna and into Sensen because I really sold it to the upper management and to our council, saying this is a new system, it looks great, and we are, you know, we're a tech hub. We should be adopting this technology and we should be using it. So that was the biggest challenge, even getting approval. But then there are other little challenges of, you know, like I said earlier, configuring it to our need, and then also keeping our staff motivated to use it, because you could have the greatest system in the world. If nobody uses it, it's not going to be good. So I can report at the end of the day, it worked out great. We even purchased another system. We may be even looking at a third system now. So.
And thank you for helping us bring it up to snuff in Ontario, essentially. And now, Ben, we got a question from California. Could AI-LPR be applied to California new daylighting law, where any parking within 20 feet of an intersection is prohibited? Currently, there is little enforcement in most cities.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know too much about that law, but it's fairly straightforward with how it's been described. So we definitely know where the vehicle that we detected is located, down to the centimeter, as I've mentioned. The key here will be to then further know where the intersection is, so where the start of it is. Fortunately, a lot of that information is usually available within cities. I would say their cities are not always great at knowing where their parking signages are, but they do know where their roads and intersections are. So we can definitely leverage that information from the city, as well as our detection to come up with a fairly comprehensive, you know, evidence package and with a high level of accuracy where it is located. I would always stipulate, though, someone reviews images, and so they do have the image and all of those GPS coordinates to do the final verification. But the AI can definitely be used as a tool there.
Interesting question, even more interesting answer. Along those lines, you kind of hinted at something that I saw another question. I didn't necessarily want to jump too much into it, but you did mention it. So in terms of, I guess, the digitization, who does the digitization? Like, you know, Ian had mentioned it, and I guess I'm asking it to both of you. Like, is it the city's GIS? Ian, in your context, did you use some of Sensen's? I'm just curious about that, how that then got into that aspect.
So we provided our city GIS. We keep inventory of all our signs, and like Ben said, our streets and what have you. So we provided that to the company, to Ben's company, and they programmed that into the system.
Yeah, and I will add, and I think everyone on this call can probably appreciate the cities. It's a living environment. Things are constantly changing. Signs are being taken down and replaced with conflicting signage. So that's where the buy-in from the individuals using the system really helps. They report change of zones or change of signs to Ian, and then it comes back to us. We're constantly updating mapping, but you can also leverage, I think you may have seen one of those images where you can capture the sign as well. So what that does is it helps you capture changes before they've been noticed or you've issued an incorrect ticket, and then it gets later reported. So there's definitely a process that we follow to do the mapping. If a city does not have the GIS layer like Kitchener did, we are able to go in and we go at street level, and we're able to pull all of the parking regulations with a high level of accuracy using the same system. And then we, of course, rely on the team on the ground to do some of the validation as they're issuing tickets as well.
Yeah, I would add to that, Jason. That's what I'm seeing is the big value add for a lot of cities is that piece is digitizing the curves, because typically digitizing the curve takes a big effort, a lot of money, and the data gets outdated real fast. So what's nice with this is with the same equipment, which you can't do with traditional LPR, with the same equipment you can digitize the curb. It brings huge value to cities.
So what I get from that is it's very flexible. If the city doesn't have GIS, you can collect it. If the city does have GIS, you can utilize some of it, and you can also enhance that and feed them some stuff. Very, very, very interesting. And the way you're saying it, it doesn't even have to be an AI LPR vehicle doing enforcement. It could be purely just to capture that if they needed it. I recommend both. If you got one, might as well do the other. But essentially, they could do it independently. Now, unless I have more time, there's going to be potentially the last question. Do I have to transfer more than one, or I'll just pick one last one? All right, I'll pick one last one. So I guess because people are pushing the edge, so they're wondering, are you getting any negative feedback? Because it's a lot of positive we're talking about. They're wondering, is there any negative feedback? Obviously, you mentioned the users like it, the city, the revenues, or the compliancy. Does anybody not like it?
I can report. No. The only thing they don't like is they want more of it. The ticket receivers don't like it. I guess you can look at it that way, because the information is so indisputable. But we get requests of more and more requests every day. Can you please send the LPR down my street, or from principals, can you please send it to my school to get more enforcement? So that's kind of the only negative thing we receive.
So they see how well it works, so then they utilize it.
I would add to that, Jason, that with traditional LPR, there's some edge cases. As an example, school zone enforcement would be very difficult to do with traditional LPR, which Ian used to have, and it didn't work out for him. So with AI, and Ben mentioned this earlier, with AI, there's not that many edge cases that can't be at least explored and say, can AI adapt to this? So with machine learning and all that kind of good stuff, I don't know if many edge cases. I haven't seen an edge case yet that says that, oh, well, AI LPR can't do that. So a lot of promise there, I'll tell you, for the future. That's for sure.
Let me add some things that I kind of ignored because Ian dealt with them, but questions that came up years ago before were nighttime pictures. How do you deal with dusk and dawn and nighttime pictures? And I'm going to throw that to Ben. What are the edge cases you could deal with there?
Yeah, that's always the big challenge. And I've mentioned that we use color during the day. Well, color doesn't really work that great at nighttime, unless you live in Alberta, where you're forced to use color because the plates are non-reflective. But infrared is still probably the best way to detect license plates without frustrating the residents and flashing white lights on the street. That would be the best, obviously, because then you can have a high level of capture rate, but you do rely upon infrared in low light conditions. And you also use the camera. So I said we use off-the-shelf cameras. What they're really great at doing, and it's constantly evolving year over year, maybe twice a year, is they find ways to improve the camera smarts. The cameras themselves have AI built in to adjust the lighting and change in lighting. We leverage all of that. And so when a new camera comes out that says they're better at finding light at nighttime, we'll use that camera. You can also use white light, as I alluded to. So I think Ian has a mix of IR and white light on his vehicle. And Ian can speak to the challenges because we don't dodge the challenges. Low light does pose challenges for sure.
Yeah, we did experience that because with one of our parking rules that we use the AI LPR for is parking longer than 3 consecutive hours. So we really have to prove that the vehicle hasn't moved. And the way we do that with the images captured is either the valve stem or the lug nuts of the vehicle. So when the officer does their first pass, it will take a context photo of that. When they do their second pass, it will take the second photo, and they compare the two, and they recognize, okay, yeah, the vehicle either moved or hasn't moved. It is challenging at night for low light areas when the tire is all black, the rim is black, and even the lug nuts are black. It's hard to capture that video. So what we did was we had white lights installed on, which automatically light up when it detects a vehicle to help with those. It's not 100% perfect, but it's much better than any other currently any other solution available.
Yeah, because you used to have a traditional LPR, Ian, and I would imagine that you've seen a huge improvement compared to before, right?
Yes, because there's more than just one photo taken, because it's capturing images from a video. There's several photos taken, so at different angles. So sometimes you can see it better at a different angle than just one photo.
Last question. When you're in a parking lot and you're doing those sharp turns, how do you handle that? And I know I'm getting cut off here, Kenny. So Ben, maybe you could just quickly say that. How do we handle the turns? Is it adding more context images, and how would you deal with that? Like the minimal set of cameras, adding more?
Yeah, just real quick, you probably could see it in one of the images. There was different zooms of the side camera. So there's one that was a little bit more zoomed in, one that was wider zoomed out. That gives you the flexibility to take those, because I'm familiar with those corners. It's always the vehicles at the end that get forgotten about. We're detecting the vehicle itself, don't forget, first, and then we're extracting the license plate from that. So the license plate is not the trigger. As long as we have the vehicle in frame, then we're able to pull the license plate from that frame.
Thank you, guys. I think our Q&A period is over. When I see Kenny, I know we've had a rich Q&A period. So Kenny, I'll pass it to you. And I just want to thank all the panelists and everyone who asked questions. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah, I want to make sure you guys had time to get all those great questions in. And thank you to gtechna and their presenters today for presenting on today's IP&I Learning Lab. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. Look forward to getting the link to this Learning Lab so you can watch it on your own time. And we thank you again for joining us today. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.